Hello, Hothouse. Sorry I couldn't make it, but I'm in Sydney, so I thought I'd send you a video of myself. For starters, I'd like to thank the whole fruit project and everybody involved, mainly Fiona, Andrea, and Josephine of the Fruit Core and artists. Samara, who came to visit me in my home, which was really nice. All of the Goongerah locals and all of the Mallacoota locals. So I've learnt a lot from being involved in this project, and I'm quite keen to use what we've done with the project so far as a groundwork to build the project a bit further. And I went into the Goongerah workshop, into the Goongerah project with a workshop, trying to harness my performance skills to create something around fruit with workshop participants. Now there was some really good things that came out of this project. For a start, the location. We used Butterflies, Legless Arms pub, and we used Jared's beautiful orchard and property to wander around. So it was great getting people to Goongerah to basically kick off conversations and connections with the locals. So one day we had a relatively short workshop. There was maybe about 10 participants, and it was a kind of shaky ground. The people weren't from performance backgrounds, which I knew, but we did do some exercises, and I think it did, kind of push the boundaries a little bit of what they thought would be involved. But we also did have a lot of discussions. We did blindfold work, we did some kind of balancing with fruit, we did some composition, framing work, we did a bit of warm-up. I got everyone to run around, which they were quite shocked about. And then we shared food, of course, which I think is a fantastic part of the whole project. Sharing fruit, sharing local fruit, and sharing food in general. And then in the afternoon we went down to Central Goongerah and had a walk around Jared's beautiful orchard and collected a lot of fallen fruit for Jeannie's pigs particularly, and we collected a lot of fresh fruit, ripe fruit, pears, apples, plums. We've used fruit to hold. Hayley, I think we got Hayley to hold as much fruit as she could before it all kind of toppled down. And Jeannie, we surrounded Jeannie with fruit and kind of laying down on the ground. So it was really kind of touching the surface of the possibilities of, construction with fruit on site, in an orchard, using branches, using twigs, using rotten fruit, using ripe fruit, eating fruit, balancing fruit, talking to fruit. And then the next morning, back up at in Jared's kitchen, there was a beautiful big fruit breakfast. The whole table was piled with fresh apples and pears that we picked the day before. It was really interesting to see the community's response to what I was bringing in. Some concepts kind of embraced, and some concepts weren't quite fitting, I guess. So it was a good learning lesson for me to be aware of that in the next step. A community event in Mallacoota. It ended up taking a whole different approach. I contacted a good friend of mine in Mallacoota, Rachel, who is an artist, photographer and a teacher in Mallacoota, and she got together with her good friend Don Ashby. We all kind of nutted out doing something a bit different that would possibly suit the community a bit more, be in a more open space and utilise the beach. So we decided to create an orchard on the beach. out of driftwood. Seaweed, you know, sea sponges, kind of sea flowers, shells. This was a fantastic event. I reckon there was about 50 to 70 people who came down. Everyone who came down kind of came running onto the beach going, wow, what's going on here? This is great. I didn't realise it was going to be like this. And madly started making things. So families, couples, single people, people with dogs, people went off on their own journeys collecting things and bringing them back to the orchard. And I would say there'd be about, you know, maybe 15 to 20 separate little structures that were made by people. So that was a very different event to the Goongerah event. Fruits of the land meets fruits of the sea. A lot of people spent all day talking, and I think people were really interested by the project and the possibilities of the project and started to understand a bit more. And I could see people were like, okay, well, I've actually got this idea, and oh, I could do this. And so kind of, you know, feeling out all those possibilities for next works. So that was a very satisfying event to be part of, tapping into how the community, to what the community would respond to well. And I think having Rachel and Don on the ground there already, you know, was 50% of the work. Because it's very hard, someone who's now living in a different place, to kind of just pop up and go, right, now this is going to be great for everyone. So it worked really well. I'd like the opportunity to do some more performance work though, but I think it's going to take a bit more rehearsal and groundwork. Okay, so for the future I thought I'd like to do more community making events involving construction of a found object in the site relating to fruit. I think costume is important. I enjoyed being in costume, and it really kind of, it helped to frame some of what was going on a kind of a photographic level, I guess. And also eating, an eating performance, a fruit eating performance in costume. And also, yeah, having a chance to do some rehearsal beforehand, I think. But now I've kind of done the Goongerah, I've done the Mallacoota, I feel like that is a little bit of a rehearsal for the future, a bit of groundwork. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the opportunity working on the fruit project, and I hope to be able to collaborate down the track with artists and everyone involved.